Hey, what's going on YouTube? We're gonna head down to the valley today. We got a little special treat for you guys. We got invited to the KUIU Mountain Academy. Not very many people get to go, so we're gonna bring you guys along the way and get some filming done.
And we'll also give you guys all the information that we learn and pass it on to you guys so we can all share the knowledge.
Yep.
Ripping. Alright guys, here at the 2019 KUIU Mountain Academy, and the big guy that we want to see is Randy Ulmer. He's a guy that's known as the king of taking mule deer with a bow. So we're going to go check it out.
This is the headquarters store, and it's pretty baller.
So I'll do it online. Hey.
So we got the California chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation coming up, setting it up their booth. It's looking good. Garmin's right next to them.
Let's go sign up for the raffle.
Alright, we're gonna go sign up for the raffle. We'll be back in a little bit, guys.
Okay, am I on? Good. Yeah, actually Brendan found that bull before he killed, and he said this bull's with 80 cows and it's unkillable. I said, well, you're not going to hunt it anymore? And he goes, no, I'm done. And so I went and chased it, and it wasn't unkillable. But I appreciate you guys all coming out, and I appreciate KUIU having me. And like I said, Brendan's been a friend of mine for a long, long time. And I spent the next 20 years trying to kill a big deer. And my brother, he's here on the left, he's always been a little smarter than me and a little quicker to catch on to things. And he would always kill big bucks, and I would always kill a buck a little smaller than him, and I think there's reason for that. And the reason I'm telling you all this is killing a big mule deer buck, an older age class mule deer buck, really doesn't matter how big they are, on public ground in the West, in these heavily hunted areas is probably, and I think these guys would agree, one of the hardest things to do. Doesn't cost a lot of money, unlike the sheep hunting that they're talking about, but incredibly challenging. But mule deer are just like sheep, but the older age class mule deer, in my opinion, are harder to kill than a big ram. Not taking anything away from them, but my point is, if you want to be a trophy mule deer hunter, you have to accept the fact the majority of the time you're going to fail. And even if you do everything right, the majority of the time you're going to fail. If you can accept that, and like these guys so eloquently pointed out, if you can still enjoy yourself, enjoy the journey rather than the destination, mule deer hunting, especially high country mule deer hunting, is for you. But if you're type that gets frustrated early or can't enjoy the hunt without the kill, then trophy mule deer hunting is probably not for you. Well, I've broken down hunting mule deer, a big buck, into 4 steps. Unfortunately, none of these steps are easy. Step number 1 is get a good tag. Step number 2, find a big buck. Step number 3, get within range. And step number 4 is make a good shot. Seems real simple. Now, get a tag where big bucks live. I spent a lot of years hunting for big bucks in places that really didn't have that many big bucks. And so I was hoping just to get lucky. And I still have friends that say, well, I want to kill a big buck, I want to kill a big buck. But where they're hunting in Arizona, I'm from Arizona, where they hunt in Arizona, you know, it's so overhunted and the genetics aren't very good and there just aren't very many big bucks. So you're going to have a really hard time finding that. I made up this chart. Now, a lot of times you'll see these Boone and Crockett charts. If you want to know where big bucks are killed, yeah, Boone and Crockett record book's the best place to look. Pope and Young, their minimums are too low to really know where truly big bucks are. But a lot of these charts you'll see in magazines or books will be Boone and Crockett bucks all time or Boone and Crockett bucks over the last 20 years. You really want to know where they're killed in the last 4 or 5 years. And not only where they're killed, but more specifically, exactly where they're killed. And that's where people like the hunting fool come in, because they can tell you exactly where to look. Okay, how do you have a reasonable chance of killing a big buck with a bow? Okay, just because there's a lot of big bucks in the area doesn't mean it's you can get it done, but you have to hunt where you can actually kill them. I love this kind of country, Nevada kind of country, or some parts of Colorado, Arizona. You know, it looks like you couldn't sneak up on a buck, but you'd be amazed at how easy it is to sneak up because there's a lot of undulations. Once you get down at ground level, you realize you can really cover country here. And I love this kind of country if it has glassy knobs you can find and refine these bucks. This thick pinon juniper kind of country that like the strip of Arizona or a lot of mid-country in Arizona or a lot of Nevada, very, very difficult to hunt. They find really big bucks here. But rifle hunters can't kill them, and you can't kill them either. So unless they're hitting water, and anymore there's so many game cameras and people hunting water that big bucks, when I say big bucks, I'm meaning older age class bucks, rarely hit water in the daytime. This kind of country I love to hunt because you can find them and refine them. You got to be in good shape, obviously. And the point is, you don't have to be a world-class athlete. You know, you get on the internet or social media, and I don't spend any time there, but when I do, I look at this hunting stuff and everything's about working out and running and being a world-class athlete. And, you know, I've been an athlete all my life, but, you know, I've gotten older. And you don't have to be a fitness fanatic to hunt this kind of country. What you do have to have is you have to have mental discipline. And you have to have common sense. And you have to pace yourself. You know, as you get older, things change, and I'm probably, well, I know I'm more effective now. I go slow, I mean relatively slow. I'm still in great shape, but I go relatively slow, and I just take my time. Because you spot a deer over here, he's going to be there tomorrow. You know, you don't have to kill him right now. But the reason I like this kind of country, getting back to my point, the reason I like this kind of country is because you can find a deer over and over again. They bed down in the trees in the daytime, and then they come up. You can find them. You can get between them and their cover. The only thing that's really hard about this country is, well, one, getting into it and staying in it. But the winds are always horrible. So you gotta, I call them making tactical strikes. You get, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But you gotta get it done. You gotta get in there and get it done. You can't go and spend a whole lot of time within any proximity of these deer, or you are going to get winded. Okay, this kind of country, I thought it was impossible to kill deer in this country for a long time, but I've killed 2 or 3 deer in this kind of country. It's very, very difficult to hunt, but you have to treat them like sheep. You have to sit and watch them and watch them and watch them until they get in a spot where you can kill them, and then again make that tactical strike. Okay, number 2. Find a big buck. Okay, so I start scouting in about July 15th, and the reason I wait till then is 2 reasons. One, in the high country in Colorado, the bucks really don't start getting into the high country until about that time. And the other reason is because you really can't tell before that what they're going to be. There's a huge variation in the growth rate of these velvet bucks. I've seen it as much as 1 month, like 2 different bucks of the same caliber will be growing at different rates at different times of the year. Some bucks will literally finish out the 1st of August. Some bucks will finish out not till the 3rd, 4th, 5th of September. So you need to be able to look at the rack and tell, just by looking at the rack, how much more growing it has to do. And you'll see this rack typical of about the 15th of July. And you'll notice that the velvet's not, you guys probably can't see it very well, but you'll notice the velvet's very uniform right here, but then it starts fading here and it starts getting blacker and shinier out towards the tips. So you know that buck has a whole lot more growing to do. And he's going to grow a bunch more, but you can still tell, you can guess within 5 or 10 inches of how big he's going to be when he's done. And this is about more typical of, say, the 1st of August. The velvet is much more uniform all the way out to the tips. Now you can see that this buck still's very bulby on the tips, not pointed out. So I'm guessing that he's going to grow another 1.5 inches probably on each of these points. And one thing to remember is the eye guards will finish first, and then typically the main beam and the G4 will finish next. And the last ones to finish out will typically be the back 2 points, G2 and the I had no patience. I think that's one of the things that helped me become a little bit more successful is aging, really. Because before, like these guys, you know, you're ultra fit and you're just like, you know, the more country I cover and the faster I get there, the better I'll do. And then you get a little older and you're like, oh God, man, I think I'll just sit here and watch him for a while. So patience is a big deal. I have this little mantra that I go through, and it'll sound silly to you, but I actually do this on every deer. And I have this little saying, I don't know where I picked it up, that patience seldom goes unrewarded. And I don't know why, but when I'm stalking a deer, this goes through my head. Patience seldom goes unrewarded. And so the vast majority of deer that get away from me because I wasn't patient. Okay. What I do now is, well, I believe there's a perimeter around an older age class deer that he will not tolerate anything. Now, whether that's 15 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, I don't know. But my belief, and this is only my belief, I have nothing to substantiate it, is that these deer have been eaten by cougars for millennia. So if a cougar gets within a certain distance of a deer, that deer's dead. Okay, and these deer know, so they don't tolerate anything. So I used to try to I remember climbing it and get within 7 yards of big bucks, just thinking, oh, I've got him now. And then something would go wrong and he'd be gone. I think I don't think it's a linear relationship between the distance you are away from a deer and what you can get away with. I think it's more of a logarithmic scale. And what I mean by that is I think you can get away with much, much more than twice as much noise, sound, smell at 40 yards from a mule deer buck than you can at 20 yards. So what I do is I get close enough that I know I can kill that deer. And when I say I know I can kill that deer, I know that I can make that shot in the heat of the moment with buck fever, in the wind, and that distance for me is half the distance that I can keep an arrow in the kill zone at 95% of the time. What I mean by that, let's say I can keep an arrow in the kill zone 95% of the time at 100 yards. Okay? Well, so my distance that I have to get within that deer would be 50 yards. And if you can only keep the broadhead tipped arrow with your hunting bow in the kill zone of a Mackenzie target at 50 yards, or let's say 60 yards for you, then your distance is 30 yards. So I get within that distance, and I won't shoot till I get within that distance because I'm hunting one buck. I do not want to wound him. I don't want to scare him. So I want to know that if I shoot, I'm going to kill. Don't be intimidated. For years, and I don't know why, it was more subconscious than conscious, but I believed if a deer had a really big rack, then he had a really big brain, or he had some sort of special superpowers. Well, when I started killing some bigger antlered deer, I realized that they're no smarter. They're no smarter than a small rack deer of the same age that lived in the same area. So a rack doesn't give a deer a superpower. Now it may give you more buck fever, but it doesn't give the deer that deer's no smarter than another deer. Okay, look for other deer. If I had to pick one thing that's blown more stalks for me than anything else, it's other deer. So what you do is you're on a hillside or a mountain and you glass and you see the buck, and what I used to do is, again, I was young, I would just, okay, there he is, gotta go get him. And I would just take off, go around the mountain, come back down and get busted by another deer. So now, if I see the buck I want to kill, I'll sit there for a half an hour at least, glassing, not only glassing all around that hillside where he is above him, especially the path that I'm going to come down, look. And the reason I spend at least a half an hour is because I want deer to have a chance to move. Like if they're behind a bush, behind a tree, I want them to come out in the open because I want to know where every deer is on that hillside. And then I look at, okay, from that hillside, what deer over here is going to see me? So I'll get over and glass, and then when I get around to the other side, I'll peek back over the ridge and glass over there. Are there any deer? Because if that deer over there sees deer over here running, and they're stopping and looking back and over at you, they're going to be nervous and they're going to move out. So spend a lot of time looking for other deer. Wait for a good opportunity to stop. Like these sheep hunters, I started treating big mule deer more like sheep. I did not realize until I started chasing just one deer at a time, or just hunting one deer. And when you hunt one deer, you kind of stick with it. You know where he lives, you just stick with it. And once you're hunting him, you stay there all day long. And most people hunt in the mornings, they hunt in the evenings, and they glass in the morning and they glass in the evenings when they scout. One of the things I found, and I really don't know if it's cause or effect, but these really big bucks, older age class bucks, eat a lot in the middle of the day. It's so noisy. You gotta take your shoes off because the mule deer hear so well. And even if they don't know it's a human, they're suspicious. And once they're suspicious, you're screwed. Is how to make a good shot in spite of being nervous. And also getting your form perfected so that even if you are overwhelmed with buck fever and you're shaky, because I shake, even when you're shaking, you execute a good shot. And if you're shaky and you execute a good shot and you have good form, you can actually hit better than you're shaking. So a big part of it is being able to make, and a lot of people say, well, you know, just pretend you're in your backyard. It ain't gonna happen. I don't care if you're in a tournament, you know, unless you've got a brain of steel. You know, your body knows how important it is for you to make that shot at the big buck. So you have to learn how to shoot when you are extremely nervous, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of discipline, and a lot of